Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome back to another video, or to this top games of 2021 video, and we're going to be going through them. So, been some good games this year. I wouldn't say the standard has been exceptionally high, but there are enough at least for me to be able to make my top 5 list. So just before I begin, I just want to mention or give a few honourable mentions to Tales of Arise and Monster Hunter Wings something or other, and also Sands of Salazar as well. They're games that I've played a little bit of, but not enough where I can say that it deserves to be on top 5 list. So a bit of a shame really if I'd had a chance to play them a bit longer, or hadn't discovered one of them a week and a half ago, Sands of Salazar. There may have been a good chance that it would end up on this list in its own right for this year, but you know, such is the way it is. I can only judge them on the games that I've played and played enough of. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. There are a couple of others as well that I had an eye on, never got around to playing last year, so we'll see if there more time opens up to do that sort of stuff this year, but at the minute it's just that, and we'll start with number 5. So at number 5 we have got Halo Infinite, which was a bit of a surprise to me this year, to be honest with you. Haven't really played any Halos since really Halo 3, and Halo Infinite came out and obviously it was quite a big hit with the multiplayer, which I played and I enjoyed. It seemed very similar to Halo 3, and then really just waiting for the campaign to come out, because for me I wouldn't give Halo Infinite this a spot on this list just for the multiplayer, even though it was quite good. It was more regarding what sort of direction they would go in with the campaign, how the first person element of it would feel, and I think it's very similar in my opinion to Doom in terms of how weighty the guns feel, but I also quite like the fact that it's a bit more fluid with the grapple shot that allows you to get around a bit more, adds a bit more speed and directness, I think, to the play, and also makes things a bit more interesting. A bit like how they added the double jump, I believe, in Doom Eternal. So, you know, it encourages movement, but not like Infinite Warfare with Call of Duty or anything like that. But you know, a lot more grounded. Still trying to keep things quite tight, which I do like, and really sort of more coming back to where we were with Halo 3, which for me is probably 1, 2, 3. Probably the apex, I guess, 2 and 3 specifically for me. But yeah, having not really played any of ones, because when I have, I've just found them just not actually that much fun. So it comes on the list because it is actually quite a surprise to me, and yeah, therefore it deserves it, really, to be honest. It's probably I might be wrong in saying this, but I think it's like the first worthwhile game that Microsoft have released in a while. So I guess it is pretty unique because of that as well. So yeah, number 5, Halo Infinite. And at number 4 we have Shimagami Tensei V. Yep, that's right, just like in the last video we have a numbered series being a different number to the number of the game series that it is, and that is Shimagami Tensei V. I did a live stream on the channel not too long ago, quite recently, more towards the end of the game at this point, but the only one I've played since then is number 3, Lucifer's Call. I believe that's what it's called in the US and the UK, which also had Dante as part of it as well, which was not necessarily like the key selling point for me. It was like a bit like, oh okay, fair enough, you know, that'd be pretty cool, have Dante on your team. Never managed it, but thoroughly enjoyed that game. And you know, 5 was always going to be struggling because you've got such a lot of nostalgia gap to get over there with 3 as well. Although things felt like similar but different enough that it felt fresh. And obviously I haven't played Shimagami Tensei 4, 2, 1, just 3, and now 5, of course. And yeah, having completed that, I enjoyed the experience. I think it's good to have that amount of time of separation because the stories are quite similar. Many of the demons are quite similar. I think the general concept and vibe is similar as well, but that's not really a negative. The fact is that it's been done well again, I think, without necessarily being groundbreaking, but adds its own little nuances in here and there that I do appreciate. And obviously a little bit of a callback as well, where you can obviously go and fight the demi-fiend. Not that my party is in anywhere near good enough state to do that, but you know, it's nice that you get a chance to experiment, fuse demons, which unlocks more potential fusions down the line. You've still got all the sort of random factors of like the full moon, or I don't know if it's called the full moon. I don't know if that's like what it actually is in there, but I know that's what it is in Persona, isn't it? Having not played any Persona games either, it's because I did want to play 5 a few years ago, but didn't have the PlayStation at that point. So I quite like the fact that we've still got a JRPG that's properly turn-based, that, you know, is still a little bit tactical as well. It's not been dumbed down, at least. In fact, I think the combat's probably improved since 3, and yeah, I don't know. It shocked me how good it was. It's a shame that they only released it on the Switch. I feel like it could have done with a PC release as well, because, or you know, a proper PC release where it ran at 60 FPS, where you wouldn't get, because there were bits of slowdown. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. They were quite ambitious using the Unreal Engine, I think, but it's not due to limitations of the engine. It's more due to limitations of the actual hardware that's running it. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Maybe we'll see a PC release at some point in a few years' time. Maybe it's just an exclusivity thing. I don't know. But it'd be really good. And I do recommend checking out if you've got a Switch still. There's no major performance issues. Just, yeah, a couple of annoying bits here and there. But that's about it. And I think if you enjoyed 3 and like me didn't play anything else since, I think you would get more benefit out of it, because you still get the little bit of hits of nostalgia here and there as well, which is, in my opinion, like quite nice just to round it off. So there you go. Number 4 is Shimagami Tensei V. Number 3 is the Ascent one. Well, I don't know if there'll be a second one or not, but the Ascent came out earlier this year. I can't remember when it was now. Was it around May time? I think it was while I was playing Biomutant. But in any case, it's also on the Game Pass as well. If you want to go and check it out and you already have a Game Pass membership, you can go and do it on there. It's sort of like a zoomed out third person, looks like an old school Baldur's Gate game, I guess, or like a Diablo or a Darker Light, like that sort of, that level of zoomed out. I don't actually know what they're called. I think they're called CRPGs, but I don't know what the C stands for. I could just have Googled all of this, and probably will have to afterwards, but as I don't write a script, you see, I then have embarrassing moments like this. But no, the Ascent was really good. It's got some really good imagery in there. The graphics are actually super nice for what they're meant to be. I think it sets the world and sets the stage really well. I think there's a good amount of intrigue in terms of the quest line, in terms of what goes on in the world that in the world of the Ascent. I quite like the fact that it also has local co-op as well, and obviously over the internet as well, which is pretty nice. Unfortunately, I've got no one to play with, so I would more than happy to play that through with someone if they're interested in doing so. And yeah, it's just like all the imagery, because it's obviously very cyberpunky, very like future dystopian kind of world that it is. And you know, don't be fooled by the type of game. Games like this can look beautiful and do, you know, even like the new Baldur's Gate or Divinity, because that sort of thing. No, Divinity's not quite. No, they're not quite the same. But the point is that, you know, these games are, 1, beautiful looking, and 2, have really good gameplay and give the developers a chance to world build a lot better than maybe they wouldn't have done. I don't know what I'm talking about, but the point is, it's probably better than Cyberpunk. I'd rather play this than I would play Cyberpunk, even though it's not got all the fancy budget, the fancy hype, but it does everything well, and it actually has a lot more of a genuine feel to it of being, you know, a cyberpunk-esque, futuristic, dystopian landscape that you're living in, better than Cyberpunk does. You know, in many ways, Cyberpunk is, or can be seen as, a bit of a shell. You know, a bit of an empty shell. Or, you know, when you get like, when you're younger and you see the Easter eggs and you think that they're solid eggs, solid eggs of chocolate milk. And then you realise that they're hollow. And it disappoints you forever. And then as you get older, you realise that as a child, if I'd have eaten a whole, 5 or 6 of these eggs that were solid chocolate, I would already have diabetes. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just one of them. And it's massive tangents in this one. But it's well worth playing. If I'd have had more time with it, another 10, 20 hours, it might have been a stage where it could have got into the top 2. Because I did like it that much. I like the imagery and the gameplay as well. I quite like the fact that there's not a mandatory nature for you to seek cover, but you can do, and you can aim on more than just like this base level. So you're able to shoot over things, which actually adds an extra element to the combat that maybe isn't there in games. I know they're not shooters, but like Diablo with like magical spells and stuff, if you had an ability that would allow you to still take cover but also shoot a fireball over the top, that would work quite well. And I like the variety of the guns, different abilities as well that you can gain. It didn't ever feel stale, and it's bizarre because you feel, I don't know if it's just me, but you feel the same part vulnerable and overpowered at the same time. Not like glass cannon-y, but it just depends on the amount of enemies, how highly strung their AI is. But it can be an interesting combat experience. But yeah, I don't know. It does most things well. It's difficult to run though, which is one thing I would say. Looking at the game, you would expect that a GTX 480, for example, to be able to run it pretty well, but it does struggle. So that's something else to consider as well. Don't assume just because it looks a bit older that therefore, it is going to necessarily be easy to run. I don't know I think the recommended might be a 660 Ti or something, or a 770, and I can fully believe it because it needs, a decent amount of horsepower there to run on low settings. It's got ray tracing as well, so it's just like Cyberpunk. Anyway, number 3, the Ascent. Check it out. So here we get into number 2, and this is a bit of a bizarre one because I already tried to record this video. I wanted to record on videos at like different angles and stuff. So yeah, I recorded it and it wasn't good framing, whereas I can see my framing when I try to use my GoPro, you see, which is not as easy to do. And I actually had my first and second one swapped around at that point. Now I wouldn't normally ever change my decision at all. It's once it's written down and I've locked them in, that's about it. But I was talking about the one that came first and then had to do previously the one that came first, and then had to do this one now as the winner. And I thought, I'm really really struggling to make this one sound better than the game that's in second. So in the end, I've decided to swap them over, and like I say, unprecedented. It really is. So anyway, without further ado, number 2 is Biomutant, which came out this year. Came out in May. Streamed it on the channel from start to finish. Yes, I did all of it, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, it came out in. It's been on the docket for a couple of years now. One that I've been keeping an eye on. And it didn't disappoint. It met my expectations, actually. It's a little bit rough around the edges with some of how the dialogue and cutscenes work. You almost sort of feel as though they maybe needed a few more months to round out some bits of the story and the just sort of the adjoining scenes between the main story and going back to gameplay and stuff. It felt a bit rough. Maybe a tad rushed. They did obviously make some changes with the cat raccoon things, their language, by toning it down a little bit, so it wasn't as maybe a little bit obnoxious as it was before. So yeah, definitely made some good quality of life improvements in there, which I do appreciate. I like the fact that you can customize your weapons and make really funky stuff, like the radioactive carrot with the katana handle. That's one of my favourites, I must say. And obviously running around with the Sonic hat. Although not sure it's actually meant to be that. I'm sure there'd be some, not sure what licensing issues there'd be, but there might be some there for them. But yeah, so it felt more like a double A game rather than a triple A game. Now, that's not a criticism. Games can be double A and be really fine. You'd be really great. You know, Greedfall was a big hit last year as a double A game. So I don't think that necessarily counts against it. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time, just like I say, just a bit rough around the edges. Nothing maybe too new and innovative in terms of, you know, those action RPG open world games. But I think that Biomutant's really accessible. I feel like if I was a tween, for example, I'd really enjoy playing Biomutant. It's got a decent enough story, something you can get into, lots to do, lots to explore. Very little feels forced, I guess. Nothing. Also, you're not sort of really overly pressured into going above and beyond, but you sort of want to. Getting all the different mounts is pretty cool. And then when you get the vehicles as well, unlock new areas, and you've got all the side optional bosses and the vaults and things. I think there's enough good secrets in there that it fleshes out the world. I think for me as well, the start is really good. You know, when you're going through the underpass and you come out through the subway into that abandoned town where humans have been, and you sort of learn and discover what happened with them. I think it's quite obvious very early on, but you know, it's nice to be in that world and go through the story of how these creatures are rationalizing the world as has been left to it from the inhabitants before. Humans, I'm guessing it is, but yeah, so you know, interesting. And then obviously this, I don't know, maybe spoilers. But yes, there's lots of caveats. You do get to make your own choices in it. Obviously, they're very binary, so good, evil. And then obviously you got the mini games that I absolutely hated to start with because for whatever reason I struggled with one of the pipe ones. I think I can't remember now. There's one puzzle I really struggle with, but anyway, yeah. So there's a little bit of puzzle element in there. They're not difficult once you get the hang of it. But yeah, so a good amount of things to do, and I can't give it a negative at all. Like I say, very close, and really very close to the third place on this list, and the fourth. I mean, top four are all pretty close, within like a point of each other. So yeah, number 2, well deserved. Biomutant, like I say, previously was number 1, but maybe you'll hear why when I do get to my number 1. And the winner of 2021 Game of the Year, of course, is Valheim, that you've just seen. Now, notwithstanding what I said before, Valheim has been an absolute brilliant game in the last year. It's funny, really, because by the time you come to make this list, you almost forget about them. You must forget about games that come out towards the start of the year. So I think Valheim came out in February, so nearly exactly a year on to it coming out, and I really like all the work that the developers done to make the updates, like Hearth and Home, and just the constant updates that were going on from the start. But nothing was ever broken in the beginning when you just sort of like walk in or get dropped in by the massive bird, and then you've got this, you know, you're in purgatory and you've got this whole story that you've got to unfold while also surviving. Now, it's one of these games that, of course, is better with friends. One that I, was part of a community of, did a lot of base building, built the Dreadnought, of course, with the massive moat. And everything just worked and ran pretty well. I quite like just that there's a lot of good quality of life stuff in there. Nothing ever felt like it was too difficult, even though there was a huge risk and reward. Of course, you take your good stuff out, and if you die, you're dead, but you lose your stuff unless you can get back to it. The bosses were, I would say, proper bosses, really hard, maybe other than the first one. The ones after that were pretty difficult, and then you obviously start moving up through the different material types, and then that then has an impact on your gameplay as well. So you end up having, like I say, like a wooden fort like I did, and then you end up going to a big castle, which I actually didn't build, but the people I was with did, and it was blooming impressive. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's in many ways like, almost like described like an adult version of Minecraft, which I think is a bit unfair for both games in a way, because they're not really trying to beat each other. So, but yeah, I don't know. It was Valheim is a really good example of what a great game can be without having, you know, a massive budget, a massive team, huge amount of development in terms of assets. I mean, just look at how silly the blooming trolls looked at the start. You know, it looked like it was something that I made, but it wasn't an issue. It didn't take me out of the game because I kept getting one-hitted by them, or two-hitted in the end. But yeah, I don't know. It was just good fun, I think, and good fun that worked. And you have to judge a game by how it comes, I think. Which is why I don't discount early access games. I also don't try to like criticize early access games because as much. I base it on, are they fun as they are? You know, and this is why Baldur's Gate 3 was in the list last year. Not finished by any stretch, you've only got the first act. But, you know, for the time I played it and for what was there, like, brilliant. I can see why when it's, like, for example, with that game, when it's fully released, it's going to be worth 50 quid, you know. At the minute, it's not, of course. So, you know, swings and roundabouts, you've got to take all that sort of stuff into consideration. But no, Valheim has been a really good game. It sort of reached its apex about the middle of the year. I think it was probably helped by lockdowns and the like. But it's one that I think needs to be highlighted because it is a shining example for especially, you know, aspiring developers that want to get into game development or, you know, building games. There's a lot of good tenets in that particular example that will lead you to being successful. And I think personally a lot of the more experienced game companies could do with taking a similar approach. So it's not a political decision whatsoever, but it is the game in which I had the most fun in this year. New game that came out this year. And I always say that I should compare, you know, winners, because we have to base it off of what came the year before. So last year, of course, was Bannerlord in early access. And I think Bannerlord is, for me, because it is my type of game, it does a lot of the stuff that I want to see in a particular type of video game really well. I think no matter what game really had come out this year, it was always going to struggle with trying to beat Mount and Blade, Bannerlord, Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. But no, by far and away a really good inclusion for this year, well deserving of the title. And I think, you know, I said it last year and I'll say it for this year as well, it's going to be difficult to beat next year. There's some good big games coming out and they've got a decently high bar to meet. I mean, this didn't go the way I thought it would go at the start of the year. I honestly thought I would have Back 4 Blood in the top 5 this year. But I haven't. It's nowhere near. It's not well. It's on the worst. It's the winner of the worst. So, yeah, things can jump out and surprise you. And the Valheim has been one of those this year. And yeah, that's probably the greatest compliment I can really pay to the game and the development team. Keep it up. I think from what I gather, there's still a pretty decent community on there. I've personally enjoyed it, and not necessarily. Well, I have had enough. You know, I've had enough of it. I enjoyed the time I had there, many hours spent, and yeah, lots of cool creations made, which I think, you know, for me in the end, it was about completing that base and just, yeah, seeing how I could, if I could do it, if I could survive attacks from the environment and that sort of thing, and it worked really well, luckily for me. Especially when you get the totems up, they're pretty good. But I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what your favourite game in 2021 was, or what you think the best game was in 2021. Now, of course, I'm only basing it on games that I have played this year, so that is worth remembering when thinking about my choices. And without further ado, I bid you farewell. Thanks for watching. Cheers, Dave.